I think it's time we have a serious conversation about how do we raise the floor. Huddle up.
You don't want none! You don't want none!
What's going on, Tar Heel Nation? It is your favorite North Carolinian, Russ, the Tar Heel. And in this huddle, baby, this Russ's Rant, week 3 version. We're obviously coming off that North Carolina 41-6 win over the Richmond Spiders, which is an FCS program. And I think that final score kind of overshadows, if you will, a lot of the woes that we experience on the offensive side of the football, man. I want to put a couple of things into perspective real quick, okay? Because I want to really focus in on the quarterback situation. You know, the defense is playing really well. They held Charlotte to 3. Obviously, Charlotte shot themselves in the foot a couple of times. And then they followed that up by holding Richmond to only 6 points. Now, you know, on top of that, a little icing on the cake, you know, Mekhi Bear gets the fumble recovery. I think he took it 62 yards for a touchdown. So the defense scored us 7 points. You know, so they only give up 6. They score 7. That's about as good as you can stink and ask for from the defensive side of things, man. You know, and then they generated 2 other turnovers. I mean, even taking into consideration the short fields, man. Richmond goes for it on a punt fake. They don't convert. Carolina gets a short field, ends up putting points on the board. They get a fumble recovery, a strip sack. You know, a little bit later in the game on Wickersham, sets up a short field. Carolina gets points off of that as well. You know, but despite how well the defense played against an FCS opponent, the North Carolina offense still did not play very well. 312 yards total offense. And I think Gio had a $119 passing, and he additionally had like 40 yards rushing. Now, he did account for 3 total touchdowns in that football game. But I think as opposed to looking at that, okay, because if you just look at that on the surface level, you'll say, well, it's not a bad football game. Yeah, he didn't have a ton of yards, even though it's an FCS opponent. He still accounted for 3 touchdowns. Well, what if I told you that he probably should have had 5 or 6 in that game, right? I think that that's an issue. If you should have had 5 or 6 and you only accounted for 3, that is an issue. And, you know, we really have to start talking about, because one of the things that have been, you know, it's really been surfacing all over the place is, you know, Gio's, we keep hearing his ceiling is, you know, maybe the highest on the team right now, but his floor is possibly the lowest. And then you got the next man up, QB2, which would be Max Johnson. Maybe his ceiling isn't as high, but his floor is not as low. And like I said, the title of this one is, you know, how do we stink and raise the floor? How do we raise the floor, man? Are we going to shoot for who has the highest ceiling, or are we going to shoot for, you know, defense is playing pretty competent. Let's see if we can just raise the floor. Now, before I give you, you know, what I think we should do, not that I think that that's going to happen, I want to go over some stats with you, okay? And I want to preface it with this. All right, you guys know how I am. I'm going to keep it a buck with you, man. I'm going to shoot you straight. You know, but I think these are numbers that we really have to look at. And we need to put all emotions aside, okay? Obviously, you guys know that I was a big proponent of Gio. And I'm not saying that I'm off the bandwagon, okay? But these are numbers. These are legitimate things that we need to talk about moving forward after the first quarter of the season. It's done, okay? It's done. And so we got to look at these numbers, and we got to go from there. Now, I'm just going to give you the stinking raw data. After 3 games, okay? Gio Lopez is 31-53 for 343 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 1 interception. And that 1 interception was a pick 6. So I almost, to the way that Russ, the Tar Heel, looks at it, that negates one of those touchdown passes. So we'll say 2 touchdowns and no interceptions. That's what we'll put it. But that's in 3 games of action. Here's the issue. That's 114 passing yards per game, okay? 114 passing yards a game in 3. That's his body of work in 3 football games. Yes, he missed a quarter and a half against TCU, okay? But it wasn't like he was lighting it up. All right, how many more yards was he going to get? We can even round up to $150 if you want, and that's being extremely generous. $150 if he just went out, just went off on TCU's second and third team, which I didn't see any indication that was going to happen. So not only is he only averaging 114 passing yards per game, he's got 74 total rushing yards this season in 3 games. Okay, this is our dual threat quarterback. All right, 2.7 yards per carry, 1 touchdown, and it's good for, if you round up, 25 rushing yards a game. Let me put that into perspective for you. Our starting quarterback through 3 games, 3 of them, is averaging 139 yards of total offense. 139 yards of total offense. I really want to let that sink in. Okay, through 3 games, our starting quarterback is averaging 139 yards of total offense. Now, I also want you to keep in mind this, Tar Heel Nation. This is not against the most stellar of defenses, okay? TCU's defense is, middle of the pack at best, okay? We'll give them a bye on that. It's game 1. But then you come into Charlotte, okay, which is a G5 school, one of the worst in the stinking country, all right? And then you follow that up with an FCS school. So you have played 2 of the worst teams that you could possibly play. These are stat games. These are supposed to be stat games, and yet currently, right now, 139 yards of total offense, you're ranked 117th in the entire country. Now remember, there's only 134 FBS schools. Right now, Gio Lopez is ranked 117th according to NCAA.com.org, whatever the heck it is, man. So that's less than stellar, okay? Now, notable guys that are above what Gio has done right now. And like I said, man, I need you to put your emotions aside. This is the raw data. This is the facts. There is no arguing this, okay? So this is a body of work of 3 games. This is not a one-off. This is not 1 game. It's not 2 games. It's 3 games, okay? There's only so much that you can shoo this aside and say, hey, maybe we'll get it figured out in the next one. Notable guys that are higher than Gio right now. Connor Harrell is 105th in total offense at Charlotte. Now, we all know that they don't have a great offense. Okay, Connor Harrell is 12 positions higher than Gio Lopez. How about the Navy quarterback, Bishop Davenport, who runs the triple option? How about that? 113th in the country, higher than Gio Lopez. How about Aaron Philo, the backup quarterback at Georgia Tech, who's played 1 football game? 1. He's ranked 84th in the country. He's only played 1 game. Gio's played 3 games. Aaron Philo is 84th, and Gio Lopez is $117. Think about that, man, okay? That kid has played 1 football game, and he is 35 positions higher in total offense than our starting quarterback, who's played in 3. That's got to do something to you, man. I don't care if you're the biggest stinking Gio fan that there is. I don't care if you think that the ceiling is as high as the stinking sky. Something has got to give. Something's got to give, because I'm here to tell you right now, man, the defense has looked much better. It's been since 2012 since Carolina has held back-to-back opponents without a touchdown, if I'm not mistaken. All right, Carolina's defense is only averaging giving up 4.5 points per game in the last 2 games. All right. So a lot of this is kind of stuff that we're just glossing over because the defense has played so well, because the margin of victory has been decent, even though 20-3 at Charlotte is not necessarily anything to write home about. The point is how many games does it take against subpar competition before you say to yourself, maybe, just maybe, we need to see what the next guy can do. Now, a lot of people are not big on Max Johnson, and I, for one, am not necessarily sure exactly why, given what we have on the roster right now. Obviously, Torrey Newkirk and Bryce Baker are true freshmen. I don't know if they're ready to take over the reins. I know there's a lot of people that want to see Bryce Baker, but apparently Torrey Newkirk is, become QB3 over him, so Bryce is actually buried on the depth chart. But when you look at Max Johnson and what he's accomplished at other places, the only reason that I would think, that he wouldn't be given a shot is because he's just not healthy. But if he is healthy, which he looked perfectly fine in the TCU game, if he is healthy, bro, how many games is it going to take? Now, I was a little perturbed, to be completely honest with you, that he didn't get a couple of quarters during the Richmond game, because I thought, to be completely honest with you, that Gio never did anything, through 2 quarters to really, cement himself as QB1. I mean, that game was 20-3, going into the third quarter, right? Or like late in the third quarter. And then, they obviously ended up tacking on a couple of points a little bit later than that. But the point is that, when are you going to actually, go to QB2? How long are we going to play this game where we're waiting for somebody to, do what we thought that they were going to do? They were going to be truly that dual threat quarterback. I mean, is Max Johnson so bad that he's not going to give us more than 150 yards of total offense? I doubt it, man. I really do. I really do. And to me, the point now is that, let's just say that we go into UCF and we're still not moving the football, and now we have to throw Max in there. And yes, he's a senior. Yes, he's been in school for 6 years. Yes, he's been there, done that. But, we're talking about being over a year since he's got significant action. Yes, he had 11 passes against TCU, but, it's not like he's been tossing the football around the last 12 months, man. That's my point. And so, I really want to know what you guys think, man. I really want to know what you guys think. I mean, obviously, I have full faith, in Bill to make the right decisions. Obviously, what I'm telling you is objective facts, and I'm basing what I would do if I was in that position off of my own subjective standard. But the simple fact of the matter is, bro, it's not been good. It's not been good. 114 yards passing and 25 yards rushing per football game, dude, that's not going to cut it. And we can't pretend that that's going to cut it. And we got to stop making excuses of why, it's not working or it is working. Yes. Has some of the play calling been dismal in the first 2 games? Yeah, I'll go with that, bro. I'll go with that. But if you're a stinking hooper, you're a stinking hooper, and you're going to find a way to get it done, right? You're going to find a way to get it done. My point is at what point do you say, okay, maybe this isn't working, or maybe even you need to come over here, sit down, and watch the game and put in somebody with some experience like a Max Johnson, that maybe is seeing the field a little bit better. Because, you go back and look at some of that football game, bro. Jordan Shipp was open the entire time. It seemed like every play Jordan Shipp was open, and there were just times where Gio was missing him. Even when he went to Jordan Shipp, they weren't clean, man. They weren't clean. Jordan was having to work, wide open to actually get the stinking rock. And like I said, Gio missed it. He should have had probably 5 touchdown passes. Really, if we're being honest. At least 4 for sure, maybe even 5 touchdown passes in that game. And you say, yeah, he still accounted for 3 touchdowns. Yeah, but if you should have had 5, there's an issue, okay? There's an issue. That is my point. That is my point. So, question of the week, man, legitimately, and I posited it, last week. Question of the daggone week, man. When do you go to Max? Now, I don't think that obviously that's going to happen, in the first quarter of the UCF game. All right. He's rolling with Gio. I think we all know that. He's rolling with Gio. But at what point, bro, do you say, what does the score have to be? Okay. What does the score have to be before you say this ain't working? Because we can't get behind. We do not have the offense with Gio at the helm to get behind and play catch up. We just don't have it. We don't have it. So who would you go with? Okay. We know that it's going to be Gio. How short of a leash do you give him? What does the score have to be before you actually make a change? Right? Or is this a situation where we just roll with Gio no matter what? I'm genuinely interested in what you guys think. Your boy, hey, man, I really think that it's max time. I really think that it's max time. Now, I would have done it during the Richmond game. This is definitely a game where unless it's just neck and neck close and we're playing okay, I'm giving Max a half, at least a half, because I got to know who is the quarterback that gives me the best chance to win for the remainder of the season. And to be completely honest with you, Gio has not done anything to substantiate that claim. He didn't grab it by the horns, bro. He didn't grab it by the horns, right? So if he didn't grab it by the horns, then we've got to see what else we actually have. I'm not talking about who practices well. I'm not talking about any of that stuff. I'm talking about when the lights are on, who is the guy that gives us the best opportunity to win football games. So I'm really interested in what you think, Tar Heel Nation. Who would you go with at quarterback? How long is the leash that you give Gio if things aren't going well? And, what are your overall thoughts on this football team and the progress that you've seen through the first 3 weeks? Do me a favor, man. Like, share, subscribe to the channel. I love you guys, man. And I'll catch you on the next one, baby. Go Heels.